code SPOT. Match 200 will match the $200 of your initial deposit. Play through NYRA Bets. $110,000 carryover starts in race 7 of our 12 race card, race number 7. We've got Breeders' Cup Bankroll Builder, 50 to win in the Vosburg. Win or lose, you get $20 towards your Breeders' Cup Bankroll. The Breeders' Cup just a little over a month away. 5 weeks, I think, from yesterday. We have a 10% bonus win bet at Santa Anita, second day of the Santa Anita meet. Feel like we have a hit and split. Do we have a hit and split also, Eddie? $5,000 hit and split, Lake Pick 5 at Belmont at the Big A, races 8 through 12. And last but not least, we are on from 12:30 until 6:30, covering all the action today. Race number 1, a lot of expensive, well-bred horses in race number 1, including Courting, a $5 million purchase that Barbara Banke bought back into that's a full de Clairiere. Imagine that one will take a lot of money. You've got an Unrivaled Bella, Breeders' Cup Distaff winner, the Dam of the 7, Rebel Instinct. A lot going on here. You've taken Courting the Firster.
I have this one going in, as you mentioned, that expansive pedigree and expensive purchase price, but there is that dam side precocity as well, with Clairiere having one first time out, another half sibling having one first time out, and then another having finished second with an over 90 buyer, and then coming back to win his next start. So it seems as though these foals are ready to go early on. And this one debuting a little bit later on in the 2-year-old season, but Todd Pletcher hasn't been winning at the same rate with his 2-year-olds, but he also hasn't been having them not show up and run their races either.
He hasn't run that many horses, obviously. A big Saratoga, it's hard to keep that going. I'm not going to take a horse like this. These are connections. Spend a lot of money on horses often that don't really seem to come to fruition, and I'm going to stick with horses that ran. I think Igniter, the 6th, the horse you have second, is the horse to beat in this race, having run well in the first start. But I'm going to take a little bit of a shot with the number 4, Forever Man, who comes out of that live. It's our time race. We saw a horse come out of the race, improved 12 buyer points to win the other day. I thought it was a good race, like this horse's first race. Got caught in a tough race. A bit of a long shot, obviously. You're going to get priced with him. Might be reaching a little bit, but I feel like I'm married to betting this horse. I'm a big bad wolf down on the rail. I did want to show some of this horse's race because I do feel like this was a horse that clearly sort of just didn't really know what he was doing first time out, and I'm not going to be surprised if he runs a lot better. Didn't break that badly, but he just jumped up at the start and totally took himself out of the race, despite the rider riding him a lot. Jose Ortiz in town, no surprise, riding for the Brad Cox barn. Thought he closed a little bit at the end. It wasn't a fast race, but I feel like this is a horse that's going to improve not only more distance, but also with experience.
Yeah, blinkers do go on this one, and look, the winner was an upset with Universe winning at 17 to 1, and the pace was honest, but it held together. So that kind of gives me a little bit more confidence in that closing run that he was able to commence a rally for towards the outside here, because we didn't really see the pace completely back up in this race. And while Brad Cox, first time blinkers, second time starting 2-year-olds, he does have good numbers. He's 36%, $3.79 ROI over the past 5 years, 2 of those 4 at NYRA, all of them hitting the exacta.
Was the much slower division of the 2 divisions of the maiden race run that day at Saratoga. Race number 2, a big scratch in this race when Turbo came out. Talk about Ride Up.
I think it's really looking at him as well as heavyweight champs in this race as the 2 main contenders left after you have that scratch of the horse towards the outside in Turbo. And it just concerns me a little bit with heavyweight champs that we've seen on a couple of occasions that he hasn't had as much early speed as he used to. And while Ride Up didn't display that much early speed last time, at least if you go 2 back, he was able to be forwardly placed in there. And Ricardo Santana Jr. had him up and around the pace in that spot. And I thought he ran okay to end up finishing 3rd behind Glint in Hours in a Day. No, he wasn't forward last time, but at the same time, it might have just been a situation where he wasn't really given any forward position in that race. And I like Ruben Silvera getting aboard, who tends to be a little bit more aggressive.
He does, and obviously there aren't too many strong contenders in this race, and I suppose he could win. His last race was horrendous. His race 2 back was bad. His race 3 back was horrendous. And I'm just starting to wonder if this is a horse that just can't really run anymore. Now, he is finding himself in a spot that's pretty hungry, so I won't be surprised when he runs better than expected. But I'm not a big fan of his recent form. I'm not a big fan of the recent form Hours in a Day. Linda used the waiver for this horse a couple of times. He just didn't do any running at all. Obviously, he's got a back race in November that can win it, but I think it is a little bit questionable whether he's still that horse. I hear you with heavyweight champs. I believe he'll be in front today. He's faster than these horses early. Maybe you're right, and Ruben will be aggressive with Ride Up, which case he'll stalk him. I thought he ran in a tough race, 2 race back going 7, where the race pace was fast and kind of fell apart. And then last time out, I don't know exactly what happened. It seemed a little bit weird that he was staying down inside, but I also think there's a real chance this is a horse, and I don't believe in all this kickback crap that we throw around a little too easily, but I do think it's pretty clear that he had an issue with the kickback early in the race, breaking from the inside. Now you've got a horse that's breaking in the far outside, who clearly seemed to resent that last time, and I think smooth sailing from the outside. It's sort of now or never, and he is running for a barn that has picked things up considerably over the last few weeks. We'll see what happens in race 2. I like Heavyweight Champs. You like Ride Up. Race number 3, I thought, was sort of an interesting race. Take a look at the horse that you have on top and I have second, who I agree with you was absolutely the horse to beat in here. You got to show the replay of him winning the Naira Bet Sprint, Sarah. So here he is getting it done in this race. This is 2 races back at Tampa. He doesn't run that often, but he's pretty quick, and he's got a lot of ability, this horse.
He does, and I just looked around for somebody that I thought would really try to go with him early in this spot, and I just did not see that other confirmed front runner. So I thought that given the talent that he has and given the advantage that he might have being forwardly placed in this spot, I don't think he even necessarily needs to show up with one of his absolute best efforts to still get the win here, and he might have things in his way tactically, though we have seen a little bit more early speed from a horse like Shadow Dragon, but I think that he'll be much more in front than
Shadow
that
Dragon
one.
couldn't run with this horse if he was under a full out drive. But no, I have no problem with him. Hurricane Nelson, I don't love the layoff, and he's going to be a short price, but he's the horse to beat in this race. I don't think there's any real question about it. It's just a question if you really trust him or if you like somebody else. I think the treaty obligation's a bit dangerous. First time for Rudy last time out. This horse had legitimate trouble at the start, just kind of through the head. I don't know if it was even throwing the head, just throw the head. It was really sort of, to me, seemed to be totally unprepared for the start when the gate opened and broke a good 2-3 lengths beyond the field and actually ran fairly well, all things considered. This was a good field, and he ran well and with a clean break, and it's not as though he's a horse that has habitual trouble at the start. Mm-hmm. He's going to be pretty tough in here. I think he's not fast enough to be outside Hurricane Nelson, but I think he's good enough to win this race.
I agree. I think he's one that makes a lot of sense in here, especially with, as you mentioned, the way that the barn has picked up significantly. We do see a couple of times that he has that propensity to stumble out of the gate or be off a little bit slow, though, in his running lines, but it hasn't affected him as much in terms of the way that he's run his races, and those have been against some tougher company as well. So I completely understand wanting to give him an opportunity in here where he still did run on a bit given that poor start.
Yeah, I think Ignite the Light's a little bit dangerous. I'm married to Lock and Key. I liked him last time. He obviously did no running. Having said that, he's coming back second off a little freshening. He gets significant rider change to Flavien Prat, and he is a horse who has run fast enough to win races. I worry about the fact that I don't think the pace necessarily is going to be very strong in here, but Flavien's a rider that's aware of those things, and he tries to get his horse in position. I can't let this horse win and pay $12 to $15. Not bet him, so I'm going to pick Lock and Key. His last race, obviously a massive concern, but he's got a plethora of races that are fast enough to win here. And I just feel that Hurricane Nelson, loose speed or not, he's a horse that's lost a lot of races at short price in his career, so he's probably disappointed a lot more than he's succeeded, and I just didn't want to take him at what I believe will be a very short price in this race. And I think he should be a short price. I just don't totally trust him.
That's fair. I mean, he does have the layoff to contend with as well, and that last race was not like his 2 prior to that.
Race number 4 starts the stakes races on today's card, the Belmont Turf Sprint, and we will break after 6 so we can do the pick 6, the second half of the show. Well, we'll take a look at 26 Black, who is, I mean, just kind of, I guess, the horse to beat. It was a race. This race was 4 horses that hadn't won a sweepstakes this year. But you know what? He adapted to the situation. The pace wasn't that fast, good trip or not. He's a consistent runner, and I don't have any argument against him in this race.
I don't either. I mean, I thought he ran well in the Troy prior to that. I think that he showed up with a big effort yet again in this spot, and he's one that, yes, those triple-digit Beyer speed figures haven't always been his norm, but at least he's shown up with 2 of them back-to-back and has that level of consistency moving forwards with them, and they're not the only fast races we've ever seen from him. I agree that he's the horse to beat, but I don't know if it's a margin of separation enough to have him be necessarily the short price that he's going to be.
We'll take a look at Alagon. Last time out, at Colonial, finishing second to Hans. If people aren't familiar with the horse who beat him, Doncho, he had, I think, set a track record at that's 5.5, going just under a minute flat at Ellis in his prior start. He's fast, and I agree this horse should be forward in a race that doesn't have a ton of speed.
And he's just so consistent. We see this horse time and time again show up, and he doesn't get his picture taken all that often lately, but I don't mind that Dylan Davis is going to be getting aboard this horse, and I just respect the company that he's kept over his last several starts in turf sprints. I mean, he's really been facing the best that there is to face in the division, and he's been holding his own well. So I thought that in a way, somehow this might be a little bit of class relief outside of 26 Black, given some of his prior races.
My concern is his race 2 back in the Troy. I did not think he ran well. I actually thought that was a lousy performance by him. And that worries me a bit, along with the fact that, you know, he doesn't seem to be quite as good as he once was. I agree with you. I think he's a major player. He's the second choice for a reason in here. I'm going to try to wire the field with Dancing Buck, who's second off a layoff, did not break particularly sharply last time from the inside. He is the fastest horse with the right break. Kendrick knows that. He's run some fast races in the past. I don't completely trust him, second off a long layoff. But if he's able to get back to some of his better races and be the controlling speed, I thought he had a chance to upset the race. Senbei, to me, is a little bit interesting. He's dressed up by his slow pace 2 races back, but he at times has run well enough to be effective here. I just wonder if a horse that's had issues and he's getting older, if he's just a little bit past his sort of his best races.
And I think I'm with you that he had everything really gifted to him in that race 2 back, and he's better than that effort can suggest, but I think that he might be bet off of a race like that where he just had everything go his own way and there was no pace whatsoever in that spot.
Yeah, I don't agree with David that he's going to be 7-2 and close to Allegan. I think Allegan and 26 Black are going to be much shorter than he is, but we'll see. We'll see who the third choice ends up being. The Joe Hurst Turf Classic, the Grade 1 on today's card. It came up a small field, but a select field in here, and interesting to see Rebels Romance coming back, and we'll take a look at him winning the Breeders' Cup Turf last year. If he runs his race, he's going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one that he just seems to show up almost every time. He doesn't like a little bit of give in the ground, so those are the races where you can give him some sort of excuse for not showing up with a usual performance. And we don't get to see these 7-year-old geldings all that often anymore, where we just have that fan base developing for a horse like this that's just so well traveled and just seems to show up everywhere.
How big do you think his fan base is? Do you think he'll bring out 7 people?
Probably bigger than mine.
Well, that may or may not be the case, but I'm not sure he's developed that much of a fan base, being that he runs in overseas most of the time. He's a consistent horse. He's facing good horses over there. He's the horse to beat. We'll see. Frankie Dettori, we'll see if Frankie Dettori can give him as good a ride as William Buick has given him in the past. It's a bit of a Herculean task. So why are you trying to upset him with Farbridge?
Farbridge is one that we've seen from him. He is better when he gets that inside rally, and I just thought his trip last time out was no fault of Joel's, but the way that he was in the Sword Dancer, where he just never had the opportunity to get over towards the rail and save ground, was hung out wide and made that premature.
Well, wait a second. He got to the rail going into the second turn.
Because he made that premature
I understand,
move.
but you said he never got to the rail. I just want to be clear. He did get to the rail for over half of the race. I agree with you that he had trouble getting there, but we have to be clear. He was on the rail starting around, well, I mean, you can smile, but for the last mile of the race, he was down on the rail.
Should I not be smiling?
Well, you should point out that he was on the rail for much of the last part of the race.
The way that he had to make that move so early in the race for me, that
I
really
agree.
told me that this was a horse that could run much better than that in his next start, because we'd seen so much consistency from him earlier on this year. And I think that he's one that, yes, he has that race, this one in his wheelhouse, where he was able to go wire to wire in it last year. But at the same time, I just think that he's one that makes a lot of sense. It's going to be a fair enough price yet again.
Too, and I agree with you. He had that early pace where, if ridden a bit, and can you show redistricting, actually, while we're talking about Eddie? Can we move that to second? Redistricting has got to go to the lead in this race.
I think that's the way.
He goes to the front, and Farbridge should fall in behind him and be sitting second. And Farbridge can then get the kind of trip that he needs to get to be effective in this race. Now, as far as redistricting, he is a little bit dressed up. He's ridden 2 strong rails at Monmouth in his last 2 starts. He's had very soft trips. The one thing he may have going for him in this race is he's a little underexposed. We don't know if he's good enough. He has run figures that are comparable to some of the others in here, so I don't think it's outrageous to think he could win, but he's done it under optimal circumstances. But he may get optimal circumstances today. The rails are down on both turf courses today for the first time since sometime in the middle of June. I think when we came back from Saratoga, maybe after Belmont Stakes. So there is fresh ground down on the inside, and the possibility exists. It may not be the case. We've been pretty far off the rails,
Sure.
so it may just be a case that the whole first 3, 4 paths are fine. But if it's a bias, he could ride again. But I think that Farbridge can sit right behind him and get his preferred trip in the race. And I do think he's pretty good. Is he good enough to be Rebels Romance if that one runs his race? Probably not. But I don't want to just say that Farbridge's Breeders' Cup is the be-all and end-all for him, because it just seems like he didn't run it all that day. He didn't get a bad trip that day, and he's a better horse than that running on that course late in the year at Del Mar.
Yeah, and I think with redistricting, even if he does have that tactical advantage, that's the thing. I don't think it's enough of one because Farbridge is going to be right there, and the others aren't so compromised by him freewheeling on the front end because they're not going to let him get too far away.
Well, I imagine that you never know with Frankie. He could be sending Rebels Romance hard to lead. You never really know he's going to ride. The horse that I don't like in here, you don't like either, is El Cordobas. I don't really like the horses out of the Sword Dancer that ran 1-2. We'll take a look at that. Why are you against this horse?
I thought he had a pretty perfect trip. I mean, he showed up and he ran well going for the first start in the U.S. and here, but he was able to have that inside position, get that split between horses, and really start commencing that rally. And I thought that, honestly, I know that you weren't a fan of his that day, but Nation's Pride ran a little bit better than both him and the second place finisher in there because he made that big early move when the pace was starting to come apart. And this horse was able to have all that momentum, save the ground, and still just go by.
I agree with you. I agree with everything you said. I think he's completely dressed up off that race. And the other thing is, he's a last time was the time horse at 4-1 in that spot, and he got a great trip. Now listen, he could be a 4-year-old that's just coming into his own, and he's improving, and maybe he's the now horse for the barn, and he'll take another step forward. But I agree with you. He got such a delicious trip in that race. He may get
He's
another
hard
good
to
one
bet.
here,
That's
but it's, yeah, I agree. And frankly, I think that Rebel Red ran every bit as well as he did.
Right, and so it'd be a much
he had a
bigger
pretty
prize.
good trip too. He saved ground to the second turn, so it's not like he had a bad trip either. But he ran an aberrationally fast race, and I just kind of want to see it again from both of those horses. So I'm with you. I'm mostly 3s and 5s in this race. The others can beat me in race 5. Race 6, the Woodward. My favorite quote was, I believe Gould's Gold's connection claimed he scratched because he was 10-1 morning line. My question would be, what price should a morning line maker make the slowest horse in a race? I
Depends on
mean,
who else
I
is
don't.
there.
Was he? If I looked at him at 10-1, I'd said, "Ooh, he's only 10-1 in a field like this. I should be running him." They'll all run down, but the reality is, see, now he's stabled in Saratoga, Film Star stabled at Belmont. I don't have a problem with Willie's D, but the other 3 horses are stabled on Naira grounds, and they're going down to Delaware. Yeah,
Who's the big dog we're really
I
avoiding?
don't know. Right, you've got Locked, who, and we'll take a look at the Phileas Fogg Suburban. I mean, Phileas Fogg. He's now somewhat handed the race because there's absolutely no speed.
Exactly.
You're afraid of Locked? Well, Locked hasn't run a good race since March.
Since
now,
the Santa
Locked may win here,
Connecticut.
and I'm not saying he can't win, but I don't know why anybody's afraid of him. His last 2 races have
been awful.
horrendous.
Right, I agree with you completely.
And I mean, I like Post Time a lot. I know you like Post Time.
He's
but
completely pace compromised, and he doesn't win that often.
And he's not that good, right? Whereas Gould's Gold could have easily been sitting second. And I'm not picking him out, but I don't know who everybody's so afraid of in this race. And they've all gone down to Delaware,
Now,
which apparently is the great spot.
If Locked
where
was
I'll be rooting
coming-
against every one of them, by the
If
way.
Locked was coming out of his Santa Anita handicap, okay, sure, but he's not.
Right.
So that's where we've seen this twice now. It's not just one bad effort; it's 2 efforts that are just kind of head scratchers from him, where he did no running at all in that Ali Sheba, and then he kind of was a suck-up third with a
He never
little bit
ran
of
a
a paceless
step
race.
last time.
How is it going to be easier for him in this spot? It's not.
He's going to have to run a lot better. And listen, the fact that Todd's bringing him back and that Eclipse is bringing him back, but I agree with the things that Aaron Wellman said the other day, which is basically it's a make or break race for him.
Sure.
Because he's got to run a good race here. The one thing that worries me is and Kendrick's aware of this, don't nurse Phileas Fogg along.
go.
Don't let everybody into the race, because you make this race a race to the wire, and if Locke shows up, he can beat him.
Are in here.
I agree, and Locke, Locke doesn't have to be that far out of it. He wasn't that far out of it in the Santa Anita race, sitting outside of him. And we'll show Post Time. I almost stayed with Post Time as my pick, because now he's going to be a distant third choice near, and I got nothing but love for this horse. And I know he's been in some small fields, and this was going back to the deputed testimony 3 races back. I think his races are a lot better than the speed figures make them look.
Yeah, and look, he is one that we've seen him be more of that closing type on our circuit or even over at Churchill, but he is capable of having a little bit more position early on in some of his races if they do ask him for it, and the pace is moderate. So I don't think it's completely impossible that he's going to be so up against it. I just think that he's not necessarily better than a horse like Locked.
And he's also better in the one-turn mile races, because the paces are usually quicker in there, and it's going to really go against him with a lack of pace. So he's against it, but he is talented. As far as the ones going to Delaware, I hope you all get upset. I know I'll be rooting for it, though I have no idea who's looking at that race, and I may never look at it. That's the first 6. We'll come back with the late pick with the pick 6, where there's a carryover, $110,000 after a quick break.
You bet with Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Download the Naira Bets app to play today and get a $200 deposit bonus. Watch live horse racing. Get expert picks. Boost your bankroll with weekly promotions and hone your handicapping skills with exclusive tips and tutorials. Download the Naira Bets app now. Sign up now to claim your $200 deposit match bonus. You bet with Naira Bets.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Al-Badwi and Andy Serling. Race number 7, and we'll take a look. Starts out the pick 6, $110,000 carryover, and it's a sequence that I don't believe there's a significant favorite in any race in this sequence, and it's not going to be an easy one to navigate. Wish you the best of luck, and I don't disagree with you that the winner may very well come out of this race on August 31st. We'll take a look at it. Bloomington, who won, got blind switched badly. Top of stretch and was still able to get up, but I thought both live in the... Guys, what is this?
Oh, this is for the Gallant Bloom later.
Okay, let's try to find the Cosmic Candy Girl Live in the Breeze one. They run 2-3 in here, and I have no problem with either one of them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wish maybe a couple of horses had run back from this race more so that we could have a better idea of how productive it was or not. The pace was honest in this race. It started to come apart. I thought that Cosmic Candy Girl was the closest to that pace that was coming apart, but was able to save a lot of ground before having that indecision at the top of the stretch of trying to go for one spot that then wasn't available and then having to switch over towards the inside. Overall, I just thought that Live in the Breeze did a little bit more of that early running from further back, but I think the winner was best.
Yeah, the winner was best. My problem is I don't know how good the race was. That's my concern. And I thought they both had
pretty... I don't know how good it has to be.
Pretty good. Well, that's fair, but I don't think it was that good a race. And when 3 hit the wire together, it didn't come up that fast, but I don't disagree. I think they are the horses to beat in here. Considerate City, I like Considerate City in this race. My problem with Considerate City is this horse is coming back now just 2 weeks, 16 days after the last race, whereas these horses have almost 4 weeks since the last race. So it is coming back a little bit quickly. But Considerate City was in a decent race. I thought ran pretty well. I'm going to take a shot with Atenea to wire the field. It's strictly a play based on the rails coming down, hoping that inside speed is good, assuming that he's got to go with this horse. Now, Ryan Elizabeth may go as well, but the way Ricardo rides, I think Ricardo could well be in front in this race, and I'm going to take a shot that Atenea wires the field. It's not a huge opinion. I don't love these stretch outs in general. The numbers are mediocre overall for Jose D'Angelo stretching out, but I'm going to hope that this horse maybe could ride a potential bias.
And also, I think that you have a better chance of getting to the front with this one coming out of those sprint races versus a horse who was forward and faded badly first time out going a rut of ground.
Especially with Ricardo, and I just didn't see a whole lot of pedigree to
No,
speak
there's
of in this race.
not much going on.
The crazy horse is Starship Ava that she sold for $10,000.
Yeah.
This is a dam that won a couple of grade twos, I believe, over $370,000, a 102 buyer. It's a full dual horse that didn't sell for a lot either. There must be some reason
There
because
must be something going on.
Warfront New York bred with that pedigree for $10,000, either the greatest bargain ever, or there's a reason for that. I'm curious to
Second
see.
to Lady Eli in the Gamely in
That,
2017.
yeah, no,
There's a good pedigree here.
Gamely, which one of these days they'll grade the California races the way they grade races in New York, and the Gamely will be ungraded. Race number 8, the Gallant Bloom. Well, without Ways and Means, I'm sorry she's not running, but frankly, we've got a much better race in here. Sunday Girl came out, but I thought this was a very, very fun race, and we'll start out with the speed in here, and that's Our Disaster. I don't particularly love Our Disaster, but she is the speed, and you got to say, I mean, she's 6 wins, 5 seconds, and 11 starts. This is a horse that, while she's facing a tougher field in some ways than she's been facing, this horse shows up and runs
She does.
every single time.
And it's not just in Florida. We've seen her really take her show on the road and be able to come up with these kinds of performances out of town. And she ran very well over all class in this last race that we're taking a look at. And Helena Sport, yes, a big price in there, but still is a good horse, even though she doesn't win all that often. And so I think that finishing second in that race to a big long shot, it's not as though that horse was completely impossible or had no races prior to that.
She also came up a gold rail, and this horse drifted off the rail, which hurt her chances. She's fast, and we'll see how much what she can get away with in here. What did I miss with Street View?
So it's more just that I see Our Disaster towards the inside as being one that's going to take some money and seems to be that need the lead type in order to get the win. And I think that it's very possible that she could be in front in here. But at the same time, I just didn't necessarily want to trust that that was bound to happen. And when you take a look at the horse Street View, who's coming in, now switching over to Sappy Joseph Jr., this is one that I thought would be sitting just off of her. Coming out of that last race, it's a race where the number has held up. We saw Alyeska come back to win and earn a 90 buyer speed figure at her next start. Practical Love, who was 4th that day, she ran a 77, yet again finishing 3rd in there. So the fig does fit for her, and I can toss the race that was over a muddy sealed surface. And then you just have 3 races where she's in a tactical enough position where she should be able to pounce and see if maybe she's going to be the one that could upset the field in here, because I think both of us have that feeling of we don't really trust Senza Parole.
Well, I don't think she's a major contender here. But I don't think Street View is either. Okay, I mean, those races were for Steve Schauer. For what it's worth, horses claimed from him are 0 for 4. They have not come back to run their races. This horse is a private purchase out of that.
Change, right?
Well, she's a private purchase since her last race. Okay, she's going to be a big price. I wish you luck with her. I like Sterling Silver. She's sort of a moto pick in this race, and I'd love to get the 7-2 on her. Here she is winning this race 2 years ago when she got disqualified in a sort of odd double DQ when another horse who committed the biggest foul didn't even come down.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, she ran a big race, and she was much the best in there. She's better going shorter. She's not facing, she faced a paceless race with My Main Squeeze 2 back, tried the turf in a paceless race last time out. 2 times before that, she's trying to go a mile and 1/8. She's finally getting back to doing what she does best, which is sprinting on the dirt. And I just think that Sterling Silver getting to do what she does best might just be the best horse in the race. I hope I get 7-2. But I think there's a lot of different things going on in here, and we'll talk about Senza Parole. Listen, she obviously showed a sign in her maiden win that she could have been the best 2-year-old last year. And I think it's fair to say that maybe she ended up a little more forward than you wanted to be in this race, in a race that fell apart. She still lost with an 81 buyer with a big lead to a horse who at best is inconsistent and came back, didn't run a particularly fast race to win it. And now she's going to run in this race against these horses. She's going to be stalking and pushing Our Disaster, put that horse away and hold off the closers in here. And she's 7-2 morning line.
As the 3-year-old facing older.
I don't care about that. I just don't want a horse that's second off a layoff that ran a non-winners of 1 and disappointed at 2-5 in this race. If she were 15-1 in here, I might throw her in, but she's going to be in the 3-4-1 range here, and I don't think there's any indication that she's necessarily as good as she was in her debut. She may be a horse that had issues. Now, I wish her well for my friend Chad Brown, but I think she is a crazy horse to play in this race.
I just don't think she's bettable at the price that she's going to be. That's the thing. She needs to show that she can actually put some races back to back and be able to hang with some of these tougher older horses who just have the proven consistent form, whereas she's one that she has to take a little bit of a step forward from that last race if she's going to get it done here, and she's never faced horses of this quality.
No, I think that she's a terrible bet at that. I wish her luck, and I know there's a good horse in there somewhere, and I hope it shows up, but I am highly skeptical we'll see it. What do you do with a horse like Scalable, who ran
She's
well to
interesting.
win 2 races back or last time, but she's also been gone an awfully long time, and I don't think they said for that race, hey, let's wait and wait for the Gallant Bloom to try to get into the Breeders' Cup. And she was also a turn back in that
I
race.
think she
but
wants to go a little further, don't you?
I don't know. I mean, there were 7 furlongs last time, and she won. I don't worry about that. We'll see how much pace she gets in here. I think Impel is another one that's a little bit interesting. I'm not sure what to do with her. I'm not sure I can totally trust her 88 Buyer last time out, where that race really came from. But the race did fall apart, and she was on or near the pace in that race, and I thought ran fairly well. I just can't really trust her totally. I thought about picking her on top, but the more I looked, I'm just not convinced she's that good. But 6 to 1, I think she's usable.
She's more playable, I would say, than a horse like Senza Parole, I think, because she has at least those back races where we've seen her face some tougher competition, and she's at least held her own, and she's coming in off of a couple starts this year with that big effort last time out to get the win. So I agree. I think that she's a better price and much more of a horse that I can use in here than a horse like Senza Parole.
Race number 9 is the Vosburg, and I strongly disagree with the morning. I hope that the horse that I picked is the 5 to 1 morning line. I'm not so sure this
Isn't it
horse
6 to 1?
won't be vying. 5 to 1. I'm not sure this horse won't be vying for favoritism. We'll
sorry,
see what
yes,
happens. We'll take a look at the Forego with Scotland and Crazy Mason, and you believe that Crazy Mason's going to turn the tables today?
I do. I think that he's one that I've been a little bit too attached to, but at the same time, he's just been facing the toughest company along with a horse like Scotland. If I toss that Bing Crosby race where he just never really seemed to do any running whatsoever, he has nothing but performances where he's been running against some of the best sprinters in the division and at least showing up. Yes, he's a horse that is pace compromised, but here it hasn't really been that much of a problem for him where he's had those situations where he's been able to be extremely effective here this year. And look, maybe the going just got a little bit tougher for him up at Saratoga. He still showed up in the True North as well as the Forego. And Scotland's just a little bit too inconsistent for me at times to take at a shorter price towards the inside.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree that he's run well when the pace been against him. Sorry, but beating Toxic Gray in a slow-paced race in the winter is not going to be the same as beating this field. Not that this is the toughest Vosburg ever, but I do think the lack of pace is a hindrance for him. I respect him, too. I've got him third. I think he can run well, but I think at 3 to 1, he's a horrible gamble in here. And as far as Scotland's gotten very good, and he can win. And he got an exceptional trip last time. But that race was coming apart, and there isn't as much speed in today's race, especially with a scratch of Super Chow. I'm not big on horses for courses,
But this
I
has
think
a
there's
flair of that.
there's an argument that this horse has run his best races in Saratoga,
Right.
and I kind of want to see him do it here. He has run well out of town. He ran well enough at Churchill Downs. He didn't run badly,
Keeneland.
but I feel like he's a horse that's run better at Saratoga, and I also think as the favorite, both he and the 9, who are the first 2 choices, are going to be a bit pace compromised. I kind of want horses that are going to be a bit more forward in this race, and that's a segue to Patriot Spirit, who, listen, I would bet him at 7 to 2 in this race happily. I think there's a chance that he is simply the best horse in this race. I think that race last time at Colonial, if we can get that race up, all right, then don't play it. Is a much better than the Buyer speed figure suggests. And he's got speed. I think Javier's supposed to be aggressive with him, and he could wire the field. And I really think he may be the best horse in this race. He has been running against good horses. He's run well in them. He's now second off a little bit of a freshening, and I just think he makes a ton of sense in this race.
I think tactically he's helped by a scratch of the horse like Super Chow, who I didn't necessarily feel was a major win
Well, of course he
contender,
is.
but at the same time was going to be forwardly placed. And look, the Patriot Spirit has been consistent. He's faced good horses. I don't think they're quite as good as the ones that Scotland and Crazy Mason have been running into at the top of the division, but there's still no slouches either, so I completely understand it. And I have him third as a horse who's very interesting in this spot, given that he should be forward.
How is Doc Sullivan going to win this race?
know, isn't he a little bit dirtied up? Didn't he run well last time where he was kind of
He ran okay.
forward
He's
in
a
there?
nice
Yeah.
horse. I mean, he's a consistent type who runs well. I just think he's shown to be a cut below these, but I've always liked Doc Sullivan. I think Nash is the other horse in here. I'm going to use him. I think it's interesting that Brad comes here with this horse. He got just eliminated at the start last time. Now, he wasn't winning the Vanderbilt, but he lost all chance to start. I know this was a sloppy track race, and the figure is so aberrational that it's hard to not say the slop had something to do with it. But he has run some decent figs in the past. He did run this big race. He can be forward in here. He picks up Flavian, and I think Nash is the wild card. I'm kind of against the horses coming out of the Forego, because the other thing to remember of the Forego was that was a very slow race. That race was significantly slower than the other 7 furlong races that day, and I'm wondering how good that race really was. I don't trust Nash, but I'm going to use him. I'm going to be 8s and 2s in this race. The rest of them can beat me.
Nash has some brilliance. We don't see it all that often.
He's been a
but
massive
at the same
disappointment.
time, I mean, I think that he's just one that's always had that little bit of that Derby hype that when he was going into that 3-year-old season, that still hasn't worn off completely.
Okay. Race number 10, as we're done with the stakes portion of today's card. This race was another race. This was the only race that was really, I mean, I know the Woodward, but we all knew the Woodward was scratching down, where the pace was dramatically changed. And while I'm not a big fan of his Sinani down on the rail, with the scratches, I think this horse becomes very dangerous. And we can show his last race, assuming you have that replay, Eddie. I just think there's a chance that this horse could wire the field. I don't trust her. I've never been her biggest fan. I think she's gotten very good trips when she's won, but she may get another one here.
That's what I was thinking as well. She projects to be forward in this spot. She is cutting back in distance from the mile where she was able to get that victory, but she has been able to show that turf sprint speed in the past, and she's been able to put some races back to back there, at least this year, where she's been forward, she's been close up there, and she's been able to finish second and then first. So I don't mind the cutback for her, and I think that things are going to play out pretty well for her from a tactical standpoint.
I thought Io Capri is a very logical horse. She had run well as a 2-year-old. She came back at Colonial. I thought that was a solid enough effort by her last time. 6th finisher, came back to win with a good vigor improvement. Thought that was a decent race. Think she's okay. She also can be a bit forward, and I think you'll see Kendrick look to get her in the game. And listen, if Sanane is a little bit, doesn't have as much speed coming out of the mile race, maybe she can be forward and she can win. What's the story with Leslie's Humor?
I just thought that she was one that might still have that little bit of upside because she was coming off of that layoff last time out, and I thought she got a wide trip in that race where she wasn't necessarily as forward as I think that she could be in here. If you isolate her turf sprints before that, she has that win when she was aggressively handled at Monmouth, and then she wasn't that far off of things in that next start here last year behind a horse who's decent at risk threshold. So I just thought at a little bit of a price, she was one that maybe had the room to take a step forward.
Yeah, I agree. She can run better. I mean, Chad Brown's pretty good off of layoffs, to be fair, so that bothers me a little bit, and I know I agree she was a little bit wide in there. Maybe she needed it. You have to hope she did, because she did not run well in there, wide trip or not, but I don't disagree that she's dangerous. I like Girls Rock in this race, who, in my opinion, just got buried down on the inside last time and really never had a chance to do any meaningful running. I don't think it was a terrible trip for her. I don't think Kendrick did anything wrong. I just think that she ended up getting in a bad spot, and she's also a horse that's also been more forward at times. And I think with the speed coming out, she can be forward here. She picks up Junior. And I think Girls Rock may be one that has a little bit more upside, that's a little better than she looks on paper. She doesn't have to be that much better to win, and she'll be a fair enough price. So I like Girls Rock. But this is another very, very tricky race in the sequence. And if we have a couple of seconds, we'll go through the pick 6. If we're done, I'm not sure we will, though, have any time when we're done. Race number 11. I was surprised looking at the morning line that General Jim, and can we show the General Jim replay first, Eddie? I'm sorry, I meant to tell you to switch those around. I thought General Jim would be favored in this race, running against better horses. He's coming out of the Baruch, where he didn't run that badly. This race, he was coming off, it was his second off a layoff. I thought he ran fine in here, good trip or not. I thought he was a horse that people might even lean on in this pick 6 sequence. I don't love him, but I thought he was the very logical horse.
Maybe it's because he hasn't won since the 2023 Pat Day Mile.
Okay.
But at the same time, I mean, you look at who he's been facing on both turf and dirt, and it's just better quality company overall than what he's going to be facing in this spot. So I am with you. I think that there's intrigue outside of him, but I think that he is the horse to beat in this spot.
I think he is, and I thought he'd be favorite, especially because we show exact estimates last race. So this is going from Chad Brown to Tom Morley, and no knock on Tom, and Tom's does well off the claim. He's shrewd with his claims, and this was a good claim. I didn't think this was a particularly special effort by him. I mean, he ran okay. The rail was good. It wasn't a big bias, though, and I wonder if you really want him going forward. In this, I'm going to try to bet against him. I know he's good enough. I don't really like him. I think General Jim is a much more likely winner than this horse.
I think that overall he's been facing better horses, and Exact Estimate has been consistent, but he hasn't been tested quite as much as a horse like General Jim. So I'm with you on that. He's held his own against some decent types in the allowance ranks, but at the same time, I think that when you just look at who the horse has been facing with General Jim, it's much better company overall.
What's the Magical Ways story?
He just shows up. He's been a consistent type and on the turf. I know that he was able to save ground last time in that Exact Estimate race where you did want to be towards the inside. But every time they put him on the turf, he seems to run a race that at least puts him right there against some decent company. And we've talked about how the barn has really been heating up lately. We've seen a lot of their horses somehow come to life over these past couple of weeks. And I think that he's one that he has the consistency of form coming in where he fits.
Okay, I don't see it. He doesn't have the will to win. He's constantly in spots he can be competitive, and he fails to get it done. He'll be a big price. I wish you good luck with him. I'm going to take a small shot with Retouch, and Retouch may not be good enough to win this race, and I am firmly aware of that. This horse just got about as pitiful a ride as a horse could get last time, and I recommend, if you're interested in this race and going back and watching the replay, he actually ran very well in that race, and I think if you look at the trip and you say, well, he got an 80 buyer for what it's worth, that buyer could have been the high 80s and would suddenly make him a contender in this race. Chad Brown is good off the layoffs. He gets Flavien Prat. He draws well in the inside, and I look at this race and I think, well, Magical Ways never wins. Highest Distinction's not impossible in here. I don't particularly like the rider, but I don't think he's impossible at a price. General Jim's logical. Judge Davis, I looked up some stats. First of all, stretching out in turf off the claim, Mike Maker's 2 for 26, 46% ROI at NYRA. He's 0 for 11 with 4 hitting the board and plenty of shorts. So his stretching out, he'll do it without me. I don't get Dear Dad. I know David likes this horse. I thought he's been running against some inferior horses, but I don't think he's impossible. And I looked through. There's a lot of horses in here I don't really want.
Yeah.
And I think Retouch is at least a little underexposed. I don't know how big a price he'll be, but he's got to be at least the third choice in this race.
I would think so. I mean, we've seen a little bit more consistency from others in here as well as better company face, so I'm with you on that.
And there's Victory Way, who does not draw
Wild
well on
card.
the outside, and there is some pedigree in this horse to be a turf horse.
Yeah.
He's going to have to improve. I just wish he had a better post. I would have found him a little more interesting
agree
with a better
completely.
post.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in race number 11, an interesting race and a very difficult pick 6 sequence. And it doesn't get any easier in the last race because there really isn't a lot of form to go on. I mean, the horse you and I both have fourth, and it shows what we think of Hot Currency. So it's going to take a lot of money in this race, but I don't know. This was an off-the-turf race in the slop. I mean, maybe Linda had wanted to give this horse a start, which she does a lot, so she'll enter him on turf even though she wants to go to dirt. And that may be the case, being that she runs back in a scheduled dirt race.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, we did see the 4th place finisher switch to the turf and stretch out to win next out, but that's improving to a 63 buyer. The 5th place finisher still ran a similar slow race, running 3rd on the 12th, and the 6th place finisher improved 10 buyer points, running 2nd in that same race. But overall, it's just kind of a slow race, and I don't really know how to judge it in this field, given that it was that sloppy steel track and an off-the-turf race. I thought if somebody could run a little bit in here, they might be able to do a bit better than a 54 buyer.
So why do you like Absolute Smoke?
I think that this one of the ones with experience, of which there aren't many, just seemed to really be a little bit out wide and then just not really comfortable in that spot that this horse was in last time. She was forwardly placed in there and just seemed to fade and need one start. I like the blinkers going on. I like that Dave Duggins picked up a little bit as well. And I just wanted somebody who at least had shown some good early speed at one point in a race where there isn't much to go on here.
She was bet. By the way, Hot Currency was MTO first time out, so I misspoke, actually. Linda has wanted to run this horse in the dirt. Absolute Smoke, I agree. She was disappointing last time. She took a lot of money and didn't run that well. But I agree. I thought second time out, I scratched into her as the speed. I wanted to bet Giovanni Marie. The 5, Let Me Count the Ways, a Yaupon firster, I think has to be respected for Mike Maker in here. There isn't a ton of pedigree, but I don't know, there's enough, and it's Maker and Yaupon. I also think Tis a Smoke Show is very dangerous getting in here. I didn't think the rail was bad last time, but this horse was planted right down the inside, got absolutely slammed coming out of the gate at the start of that race, and didn't really run that badly. And I think getting off the also eligibles, getting in with New York breds, the Tis a Smoke Show is dangerous. So I'm going to lean pretty much on the 5, 11, and 13 in this race. Maybe if I had had more time to think about it, because I wonder if the 13 would get in. I figured, you know, you might not ship a horse from out of town getting in the
Santana will
Alsos.
be on that one.
And Santana is on him, which is certainly a rider upgrade for sure. So quickly on the pick 6, we have 2 minutes. If you had to lean on one horse, and we have less than a minute, who is it?
I would say I would lean pretty heavily on Crazy Mason, even though you are going in a different direction. And I would make sure that Our Disaster was on all my tickets as well.
All right, see what happens in the pick 6. That's races 7 through 12 of our 12 race card. Head on over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code MATCH200 and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. We have a pick 6 carry, which we just mentioned about 8 times in race 7 through 12, $110,188. It looked to be cruising along pretty well yesterday, and then all of a sudden it completely blew up, though I don't think the winner of the 8th was 31-1 in that sequence, probably a little bit shorter in there, but still not that easy to make. There was a particularly bad ride in that race, but that was to be expected given the rider. What else do we have? We have the Bankroll Builder, 50 to win on anyone in the Vosburg, get $20 back. So only betting 30 to get that value there. Not a bad play at all. We have a 10% bonus at Santa Anita if you're betting. We have a $5,000 hit and split here in the late pick 5. You want to opt in for that. And last but not least, 12:30 to 6:30.